So I'm just going to show you how you can import and export in your contacts list. This usually goes for most of the other modules as well. So first of all, you want to export some type of data that's in the system already, because if you have a custom field set up in here like age, vendor name, department, and all these other fields, we kind of want to already have the Excel spreadsheet set up for that. At least that way it gives you a bit of a working template to work with. So first of all, we go to the settings spanner, and then we come down to data administration and export. And then we select the module in which we're going to export, and then we select export. This will download a CSV file. And then we open that CSV file. And now you can see here that each one of these columns is actually set up for each field which is inside that module. And so now what you need to do is you need to make sure that your CSV file from your existing software or from some other source that you're currently using, each one of these rows or columns needs to have lead source, first name, and the spelling preferably needs to be pretty close. And then we can go ahead and then try to import this. Okay, and if you need to fix up and clean up any information, then you can. Always remember that if by default, the last name field is actually set as mandatory. So if there is no last name in here, let's say, for instance, I remove this one here called McDonald, it'll actually fail to import this entire row of information. So if you don't have a last name for one of your contacts, then just simply put like unknown there, or make it a default value, which we usually prefer just for clients to put like unknown all in capital letters. And then you just tell your staff and train them on a business process that if this is ever the case and you come across a contact, we need to grab their last name. And so the other one to think about as well is you're going to have a problem with other fields in here on an import where the field is mandatory. So let's say, for instance, your business company process is that it's mandatory, we must have a company name against all of our contacts. Well, then if that field is still mandatory when you do the import, these lines here will not import because there is no there is no company against them. So you need to work out which fields are mandatory and then edit these. The best way that I usually find to do this is to remove the mandatory fields from the CRM system. So if we go back to the CRM system here, and then we go into modules and fields, and we go into contacts, and then we go into the standard layer, see here where we got last name is mandatory. We can't change that. And see here, the date of birth is mandatory as well. So if I imported these contacts into the system and they did not have a date of birth against that record, that entire customer will not be imported into the system. So what you need to do here is you need to untick that as required and scroll down and make sure there's no other ones that are required except for the last name. And then we click save. And then now we can go back and create an import. And to do this, you go to your module, and in the top right-hand corner, there is an import button. We simply select that and then select contacts. And then we browse the file, which is the contact CSV file that we exported before, or the modified version you've got. And then we select next. And then we basically want to put them in as new contacts. So if this is a brand new import for a new CRM system, then select that. If you already have existing contacts in the system and you've updated some of their details, but you've also got others in there, then you can choose between update or both. Just remember, it will override all data. And then we go next. Okay, and then now this is where we get to map the fields. So in the Zoho CRM system, we have a contact ID, which is picked up inside of the Excel spreadsheet. And so now it's saying, where are we going to map that to in the system? Which is, in this case, it's the contact owner, but it's the user ID, not their email address. So then we say that, and we go, yes, we want to map that. The contact owner, okay, is obviously going to be the user, okay? So we scroll down until we find the contact owner itself, and then that is their user ID, which we select that one. The contact ID up here is actually the actual contact ID itself. And yeah, so you don't need to map the contact ID because it's not actually really there. So you can ignore that field. It's not necessarily, because on a new import, you will not have this field. But on an existing import, you will. So hence, therefore, when you map based on that, you're going to have to specify to ensure that that's correct, or otherwise it'll use the last name, okay, or it will use the email address for identification purposes. Okay, and then you go next. And then do you want to assign any tasks to all of these or create a follow-up task? Usually most people won't. But what a lot of people will do is add a tag to the contact. So in here, you will actually write in the 26th of the 7th import. Okay, or whatever kind of tag you want to do to kind of tag those clients is like, how do they get into the system? Once you've done that, you click finish, and it takes about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how many contacts you've got. It may even take up to half an hour if there's thousands of them. And it's that's as simple as it is. When the import finishes, it will advise you, and in the data administration settings and then import here, there is this import history box. And currently at the moment, we have no imports in the system, but it will pop up and actually say whether it did or didn't import. There will be two options here. One will say that it imported successfully, and then it will say 1,000 contacts imported. And then next to that, it will say whether any of them failed. And if any of them failed, you can click on that link and it will export them back, the failed contacts only, into its own Excel spreadsheet. And then you have a clean CSV file on your system, which is actually showing you just the failed imports only. And then you can just tidy up that data, and then you just follow the same process and then re-import those contacts again. And keep going back to this import history to ensure that they're not failing to still import.